Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning. Welcome to this webinar here today, where my goal is to remove some of your fear, at least around these topics probability and permutation combination. I've heard so many people talk about these. They're like, I can do most of the things in quant. I'm good with so many concepts, but these two, shall I just leave them? Not do them? If you're someone who has struggled with these topics, then you're in the right place. I'll try to remove that fear and make you comfortable with this topic here. And here you all have your presentation screen as well. Come here and interact in the chat. Tell me, where are you joining from? What is it that you're looking forward to the most in this session today? I'll make sure to cover things that you specifically want, or the style of the session that you want. All right, so let's continue. I will just take this minute to introduce myself. I am Shweta Koshija, the lead quant SME at e-GMAT. I have been a part of the product creator team, been a part of e-GMAT for 4+ years now. It's a beautiful journey. I've seen work done on the inside, how much effort goes into creating these things for you, how much effort goes into creating every single product. A lot of things I'll be talking to you about today, everything with the single goal to help you succeed. Today, it's this one topic, advanced topics that we are doing. I'm going to try to give you an approach that you can use always, so that even if the topic changes, you don't get scared when the language gets difficult or it looks like it's scary. Nothing is going to scare you. Okay, so our purpose is simple. Sorry. We want you to understand that the key to acing GMAT quant is not doing 2000 questions. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. You need a sound understanding of your basics, really, really strong concepts, and then a structured approach to solving questions. It should not be something characterized by shortcuts, because they would work in some places, they would not work in another. And you don't want something like that, right? So, here then, today, I'm going to have two parts to this webinar. We will have the live session, and I'll also give you an idea about how you should plan your journey. We will talk about the plan later on, but before all of that, we're going to jump right into this. Welcome, Julia, Priya. Hello. Bangalore. Okay, nice to have you people here, and I'm sure you're gonna have fun here today. Just interact with me, ask questions. Feel free to ask questions, even if you feel you're asking something that's dumb. Don't judge yourself, okay? Just enjoy this session and let's begin. What's the flow? You must all know. First, we're gonna do a warm-up section. This is to warm ourselves up. We'll just get into the groove, get into the feel of doing these topics. What you need your pen, paper. Make sure you're not doing things on the surface and you're really involved. This section is 5 questions only from PNC, 500 to 600 level, so easy ones. Then, through these solutions, we will actually be revising concepts. So, in case you're rusted, you will be able to have that. Hi, Science, Shushrut. Hello from Calcutta. Looking forward to this. This is my weakest math topic. So many people have this weakness. Hello from Peru. Hi, Diana. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. If not, I'm sorry. So, right after concept revision, hello, Kuvar, we will go into a sprint. What's a sprint? Well, this is where we'll do 3 questions. These are going to be slightly higher level, 600 to 700. This is where you're going to apply the concepts that we will just have revised. So I'm not taking any risks that this person could not do it because concepts were missing. No, I'm giving you the concepts up front. And after that, we'll do another sprint, which is going to be 2 final questions. These are now at the hardest level. But throughout, rest assured, you'll have a lot of learning. You'll get feedback throughout. You'll get takeaways. You'll learn from what other people are doing, what choices are most popular, and why. So it's going to be super interactive. I'll keep telling you why people falter. Hello, Suraj, Samagra. Some of these names I've heard. It's so nice to see you people. Hello, Christian. Wow. We're joining from such different places. I'm so glad I said morning and evening. I think some of you must have a very early morning right now, is it? Now, I'm going to start with the warm up section. Some house rules first before we really get into questions. Yes, these are basic questions. We are going to discuss solutions. Nobody, please put your answers in the chat. Hello, Shankar. Hello, Tohid, all of you, please use the polls that we're going to give. The polls are where you mark your answer and then come back to the session. Because when you put something in the chat, it's going to disturb some other person. Maybe I want to mark A, but so many people are writing B, now I'll mark B. That's not fair. That will not be an honest judgment, right? So, back to back, we're going to do these questions and keep discussing them. Ashish is supporting us today. He's a quant expert at e-GMAT. He's going to put links in the chat to these polls and a lot more. Ashish, can we have the first poll, please? Everyone, give this your everything. Be focused. Trust yourself. Just simple concepts. Your first link is here. This is the first question. All the best. We have our accuracy data here. Everyone, look at the chat. 50% accuracy on this question. So, half of you got this correct. The correct answer is E. Now, let's see why so many of us faltered here. So, everyone, be completely involved in this as I'm discussing. Okay. So, in how many ways can we form a three-letter password using letters from this set, such that last letter is a vowel? So here you see three blanks to just understand the position, and I know that among all of these letters I have, there are two vowels. Now, the last one has to be a vowel. That means I already know where this one will come from. It's going to come from those two choices that I have. And because it's a password, because I can have them in any order, I can arrange things, I'm just simply saying I have all six choices open for the first letter. It can be any of those, all six choices for the second letter, but only two choices for the third letter. So, this is a concept where I'm counting possibilities. It's simple counting. You count how many possibilities are there for each position and then you multiply. multiply them. Why are you multiplying? It's like six options, six choices for the first letter, and six letters for the second, and two for the third. It's things that are happening in a sequence. All of them have to happen. When I say six in this place or six in that place, when it's a choice, then you add. So understand this very carefully. When are you multiplying events, and how is this simply why I'm multiplying possibilities? The core reason why I'm doing this session, what's the core reason? Done but wrongly done. Okay, now did everyone understand what's happening here? Simple question. It's just a product and it's 72. So every single slide, every warm up question that we're going to do here, you will see summary of what concepts there are. That's how we're going to go. Ashish, let's please have the second poll. Meanwhile, everyone, again, simple counting, possibilities, multiplying because it's an and. Next poll is here. This is your question. Good luck. All right. This is pretty good. 90% accuracy this time. Good job. But before I go into this discussion, I want to commend all of you on the discussions you're having. I saw that Ayan had a doubt, and then Samagra came in, And then who all came in? The data sorcerer came in. This is very nice. This interaction that you people are holding, it's that feeling of community in which all of you are going to learn a lot. Just keep this up, keep learning, keep asking. Now, here, this question. Now, what's happening? We had a junior school, class A, class B. Class A, six boys, four girls, and B has its own split. Question is, how many ways can a teacher select exactly one student from each class? So, one student from A, one student from B, to form a team, obviously of two people, but you want the team of one boy and one girl. Tell me, if I did not say anything about one boy, one girl, then how many teams could you have formed if I took one student from class A and one student from class B? That's an extra question. Let me see who gives the first correct answer. One boy, one girl. Forget about that for a second. What if I gave no condition? One student from class A and one student from class B. Then how many different teams would I be able to form? 150. Just give me the approach. What are we doing? Okay, good. So many of you came in. Basically, it's really choosing one out of the 10 from there, 10, and then one from the 15. Christian's answer did not match. Everybody else, yes, you're right. It is 150. Good job. So, right now, the question on your screen is the harder version. What I asked was the easier version. So, if you found yourself struggling on the easier version, that proves the concept is very, very shaky. But after this one, you'll be able to do that as well. So, since I want one boy and one girl, there are two ways of doing that. As you see here in the cases, I can have the boy from class A and the girl from class B, or reverse, girl from A, boy from B. Now, if there are six boys in class A, I'm selecting one out of those six, 6C1, and 7C1 for the girl from B. Remember, I said when you're doing an and that you have to do this also and that also, you multiply. But here, then, it's an or. Either you're doing this or you're doing that. And what did I say? Whenever there's an or, you add. Then you repeat the same process, girl from A and boy from B, and then it's just calculations, which is choice D. Now, yes, for the question that I asked, absolutely. So, should give the first correct answer, but many other people could do it. 10C1 times 15C1. Perfect. Shankar, I think, has given this answer only. Yeah. All of you did this very nicely. Well done. So this was basic combination where I'm selecting something. Permutation is when I'm arranging something. So order matters. Combination order does not matter. It's not like boy, girl, girl, boy. That doesn't make a difference. The team is still the team. This was a basic combination question. And here you saw not just multiplication as in the previous one, you also saw addition of events. So I hope this was a good learning. Yes, this session is being recorded. It will be here on YouTube. Let's have the poll for the next question, please. What is that, Sushruth? You're selecting six people from class A. You're creating a new question or what? Sherlock Holmes, I've been good. Now I want to know who you are. The next poll is here, and here's your question. All the best. Okay, you guys were pretty fast on this one. Data came really fast. Oops. Okay, the accuracy is 80%, pretty high. Well done. Let's discuss this. Rohan is attending for the first time. How are you finding this, Rohan? And how is everyone else finding the session? Do appreciate. If you like it, hit the like button. Now, here is your warm up. Let's discuss question three. In a toss of three coins, what's the probability of getting at least one head? Shankar is giving us the approach also, Sanket as well. Good job. You already know the next concept then. So, next concept is about event. If I have to consider here, it's getting at least one head. There are multiple possibilities in which this can happen. It's one head or two heads or three heads. So all of these different possibilities that you see, these are what, three and two and two, seven different possibilities. Do I have to write them all? No. The reverse is way easier. Probability of the non-event, that is getting no head at all. There's just one such outcome, TTT. And if I find the probability of the non-event, I'll simply subtract that from one. Why? Because total probability is always one. That's 100% chance. So if it's 20% chances of raining, then 80% chances of not raining. No, they simply associate this way to make it a 1. And this way, then, since total outcomes were 8, by the way, why is it 8 total outcomes? Let me see who can give me that rule first. What if it was 6 tosses? What would it be then? And yes, so total outcomes 8. That means my favorable outcomes 1, non event probability 1 by 8, and you just take the reverse. Yes, Samagra, that's absolutely correct. 2 to the power 3 because it's 3 coins. And oh no, that's not right, Ventura. Cyan, are you answering the 6 tosses? 64? Yes. 2 to the power n outcomes. That's the simple formula. Shankar gave us that. So if it's n tosses, it's going to be 2 to the power n outcomes. I have a question. Let me ask you something extra. What if it was a die and I threw a die that has 6 sides and I threw it 2 times? Then how many total outcomes? I want to see if you can connect these two things. Yeah, Dipanshu, that's perfect. What if it's yes, 6 to the power 2? So in that case, you're taking 6 raised to the power. How many times you're doing this? Perfect. Let's have the next poll. Everyone has mastered this. Let's have the poll for question number 4. Yes, that's correct. Samagra, Sayan, Dipanshu, Sushrut. Very good. Okay, next poll is here, and this is your question. All the best. accuracy is here. 85%, pretty good, as you guys found this easy. Samagra, join me in the creators team. That is a question, by the way. So here, number randomly selected from first 48, probability divisible by both. A number which is divisible by both 3 and 5 is divisible by 15, and so I'm simply seeing how many multiples of 15 there are to get my final probability. A side question I have here is, what if I said probability that a number is divisible by both 4 and 6? Would that be 24? And if not, what should it be? 4 and 6. I'm just trying to check little things that are here in a question to see if you can handle different versions of it as well. So it's like you're solving one question, but you're discussing two at least. Yeah, that's correct, Ritik. 12, 12K, 1 by 12, such variety. Divisible by 12, yes. How am I doing this? Because 4 and 6, we take the LCM. Here, because 3 and 5 are anyway co-prime numbers, they have nothing in common. That's why the LCM was 15. Let's have the poll for question 5. Good job. You guys have your concepts pretty solid. It's going to be fun when we come to the harder ones. All right, next poll is here. Let me show you the question. This is it, Samagra. Good luck. Okay, accuracy is lower this time. It's at 48%. And let's see why that happened. But one thing before that, I was reading this comment. Ayan, you said, is it the same question? This tells us a lot about how you read a question, Ayan. Every word matters. I know it's a very small change, but there was a change. Instead of saying 3 and 5, I said 3 or 5. You realize that? So, this is the translate process skill, how careful you have to be about every word that you're reading here. And people are asking answer to the previous question, 4 and 6. That was just to check divisibility. But in that case, you're seeing all multiples of 12. So 12, 24, 36, 48. I had a question that because it doesn't say inclusive, it doesn't have to say inclusive. All of you can see the question because it is from the list of the first 48. Na? So the first 48 will include 48 as well. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, coming to this question now. Okay, I've missed so many comments. Let's see. Okay, Shankar is, I think, giving us the approach, and that is good. That's the concept I want to give you guys here. So, divisibility by 3 or 5. Whenever there's an or, for two events, you always add their individual probabilities? I said or is addition, so that way I am adding. But then I'm also subtracting. Who can tell me why we're subtracting? Yes, I can see formulas in multiple places. Why am I subtracting this thing in the end? It'll tell the difference between just knowing a formula and understanding it. To remove common ones, to exclude the common, count it twice. Yes, so essentially when I'm counting all of my multiples of 3, I am counting, 3, 6, 9, 48. But what about the multiples of 15? They will come in both the lists, in 3 also and in 5 also. This happens whenever you have two events that can happen together. Now, what about two events that anyway cannot happen together? We call them mutually exclusive events. In those cases, because they cannot happen together, this intersection happening together becomes zero. It's still there. The formula does not change, but it then becomes zero. Then final answer is simple. I'm just putting all of the values in the formula and I'm getting 11 by 24, which is choice D. So because accuracy was low in this one, tell me if you guys understand this now. You can just write C for clear in the chat. It should be absolutely clear. Let's see, come on. This is the last warm up question. Okay. The concept here for us was how to deal with events where you have an or, this or that. Okay, great. I'm glad everyone understands. So, overall, you saw these questions could be very simple if you know your concepts. But if you don't know your concepts, they can be challenging as well. There is no doubt in the fact that you have to have 200% clarity in your concepts. Now, tell me one thing, in these questions that you did, there were some concepts that you completely understood, but there were probably some that you were slightly rusted on. Right now, you had to do all of these questions with me, even if you found them easy. You didn't really have a choice. But should that be the case when you are actually preparing for the exam? Should you have to study every single concept, whether or not you need it? You should not. In that case, we have a solution for you. The Quant course is enabled with the PACE architecture, where it personalizes the course for you. And I'm not going to give you some theoretical information here. I'm going to demonstrate this to you by actually going in the course. So give me a second as I share my screen again. One second, I will show you an exact account. Almost there. Okay, do tell me when you can see my screen. Can you please I can see it here though. This is an actual student's account. He's a very diligent student and I wanted to show you the power of pace from his account. I'm just going to go into quant and go into advanced topics because that's the topic we're doing here today. Look at this right hand side, which talks about the time estimates. This is the total time you need to do this course if you do every single activity in it. So estimated course duration is 14 hours and 40 minutes. Then Gagan, because he did the course in a way that he had some starting abilities here, because of that he could save time here. There is something here which is not correct. Give me a second. Just going to refresh this. I'm sorry, this is the wrong account. Give me a second, please. We were in the right account just a second ago. Everyone saw Gagan, right? I'm surprised how it just changed into another thing. Coming up. Okay, I'll share again. All right, now let's see this again. So you go into the advanced topics course like this, And now you see what it is. The estimated course duration is 14 hours and 40 minutes. And Gagan managed to save 5 hours out of that. This is more than 30% time savings. And how that happened, I'm going to show you just that. So, for example, look at this first module. This is permutation combination. In PNC, he did the concept diagnostic, as you see here, and he scored a 92%, which means a lot of the concepts he already knew. As a result, these concepts from the fourth one to the ninth concept, these were all grayed out for him. He didn't need to do them. You can see how it talks about skip it. And when I hover, you can see it's because he scored 100% on such questions, these conceptual questions that are being covered in this file. He doesn't need to do it. And because the score was not 100%, there were weaknesses, of course. That's why there are some concepts he still had to do. These were the concepts in which he made a mistake in his diagnostic. So, before you start preparing any single topic, I'm not even talking about the whole of quant or the whole of algebra or the whole of advanced topics. You're going deep into one topic, just permutation combination. Right at the beginning, you're doing a concept diagnostic which decides which concepts you have to do. And that's not all. You also do a GMAT skills diagnostic quiz, as you can see here. The difference between the two is pretty easy. Concept diagnostic just tests what your conceptual understanding is. GMAT skill diagnostic is to diagnose your current comfort with GMAT style questions. What if you were to take your GMAT today? How would you do on this topic? Now, because he got a 78% here, he had to then do all of these files down below. Nothing out of this could be hidden for him. So, we are diagnosing you on two different places: the entire GMAT skill level and just conceptual level. Let me show this to you again through sets. Sets also, concept diagnostic was 100%. So see how all of the concepts are hidden for him. And this is not just for advanced topics. I'm just showing you advanced topics here. You can see this repeated in any other topic as well. Now, sometimes you will see process skills also hidden when a score is very high in GMAT skill diagnostic, but maybe because time is high when you did the quiz, it's not just accuracy, it's also seeing whether you took too much time. In that case, also, it then does not hide the files that teach you that application, because you know how in the exam it's not just accuracy, it's also efficiency. So this is the power of pace, and I showed this to you on one course. We can see it somewhere else also. Say I show this to you on quant basics. Now look at this: a total of 14 hours and 30 minutes, but he had to do, he could save 9.5 hours out of that. So something that was supposed to take 14.5 hours took him what, 5 hours. Now what do you do with all of this saved time? You can put it where you need work. This is what I was talking about, that you should only be able to do things that you need to do. Okay, so I'll just remove this once and bring back our session. One second. Meanwhile, you guys tell me, what do you think about this, the pace architecture? Do you see its impact? Do you see that it can help you? What do we feel? How do we get access to this portal? This is e-GMAT's website. You can just go on egmat.com. Do you see how impactful pace can be in saving your time? Yeah, great for tracking, automated, says Sherlock Holmes. How do you access space architecture? You don't have to do anything special to access this. It's a part of your course. You become a part of the quant course, you become a part of the e-GMAT family. It's a part of every single quant course that you do, every single topic. You don't have to do anything. Sanket says he loved the free trial. I'm sure, Sanket, then you experienced pace in the free trial as well. Those of you who are not students, you can go and experience this as part of the free trial as well. Okay, great. Let's continue then. So, now that we know how you're going to learn the concepts and learn just how much you need to, we'll go to the next stage. which comes after you've mastered your concepts. Once you know what the concepts are, how basic application works, it's time to take it to the next level where you're applying your concepts in the right place. This is where you have to have strong hold on process skills. These are the skills you apply when you go from reading a question to finally solving it. There are multiple steps that happen in the way. Let's have the poll of the first question in the sprint, and I'm going to show you then. I don't know about a coffee chat that they'll be visiting for, but I know some coffee sessions happen online, I think every Friday. All right, first link is here. This is your question. All the best. We cut short the time that we were going to give you for this question because too many people put in the answers in the chat. That's a request I made in the beginning. Do not do that because then that's not a fair question for everyone else. I mean, they're just impacted by the answers that they see in the chat. It's so distracting. I wasn't trying to read, but I still kept reading. That'll happen to even all of the students. So let's not do that, please. No answers in the poll. The accuracy still is 70%, and let's discuss this. So, 5 red, 4 blue, 9 balls in basket A, and 16 balls in basket B. Now, one random ball we picked probability of both being blue, so one from each basket, probability for both being blue is 1/4, and you want to know how many blue balls in the second. 16 total balls, I don't know what the color is. But because we have a probability of both being blue, that means there was a blue ball in the second basket also. Otherwise, the probability would have been zero if I'm talking about both blue and it didn't have anything blue. Now, both blue means blue from basket A and blue from basket B. That's why the multiplication. Now, this probability is really straightforward for basket A. It's 4 by 9 because I have the balls. Just for the second basket where I'm trying to find the blue balls, it's x out of 16. That's the unknown we've taken. And it's a very simple equation you're solving, which gives you 9e as the correct answer. Now we got multiple different answers here in the chat. I think I got x equal to 7 and y equal to 9 here. What is y and what is x? Maybe you took the blue balls as y. So it's very important we know what variables we're taking, otherwise we won't be able to make sense of this. Um, Cyan put his approach here. It's the same here. 16 minus x when you do, then that means you also took x to be the other balls. That's all good. Taiwa said she didn't know how to solve this question, but does the discussion now help? Just understand the concepts, how you're doing an and. You're selecting a blue ball from the first basket, taking the probability of that, and means multiplying with the probability of getting blue from the second basket as well. And then it's just a simple equation that we solved. Difficulty level for all of the questions in the sprint is medium level. These are not hard. We'll go to the harder questions after this. Okay, so I saw one question in the in between. How do we know repetition or not? I think order matters or not. Now, what are we doing here in this question? We are selecting a ball. We're taking one ball from one basket and another from another, and we're just seeing what those two balls are. Does it matter if I said one is blue, one is white, or I said one is white, one is blue? Do I have a different outcome? No. So, a quick way to check whether order matters or not is to really say that to yourself. If I say this and that, or that and this, is it changing what I have? If it's not, then order does not matter. That's a quick way to think about it. All right, great. The discussion was helpful. Now, then, we're going to go into the second question of this sprint. Let's have the poll here. Everyone, please put answers in the poll this time. Okay. This is your question. Don't be intimidated by the text. Go nice and slow. It'll happen. have our accuracy for this one. 52% is the accuracy. So about half of the class got this correct. Let's discuss this. Christian says he found one more of his weakness in this question. What is your weakness, Christian? Sanket is here with the approach. Uh, Shiladitya says, didn't read the last part of the question properly. Thought the probability given was for the whole test, not single question. This not reading properly, or I thought it was that, it's a very common thing that you probably have heard yourself say in the past and heard a lot of other students say also. This is a skill, how to read things with such peace and calm that you don't lose information. If you hear me talk, you sometimes might feel I talk too slowly, I need to pace up, but that's just how I start talking the moment it's quant in front of me. Real life, you hear me talking, I talk really fast. This calm, this sense of patience and reading nicely, carefully, that's what ensures you don't miss information. Translation is the skill we're talking about, going nice and slow. Okay, let's discuss this one now. A quiz game presents quizzes of progressive difficulty. All of you understood that. Level 1 is D1, level 2 is D2, so on. You only go to the next level if you do every question correctly, otherwise, you'll repeat the same quiz. Now, Tom starts playing this game. His probability of answering a question correctly, one question incorrectly, in a level 1 quiz is zero point 0.2. And in a level 2 quiz, D2 quiz is zero point 0.3. I can actually draw some inferences here that getting a question wrong in D1 is just 20% chances, but it's higher chances for that to happen in a D2 quiz. That means level of difficulty is increasing. We can get sense of that even from the data that's given to us. Now it's saying what's the probability that after taking two quizzes also he will not have progressed. But first let's understand what's given. Answering a question incorrectly in D1, that is what? Zero point 0.2. So correctly is going to be zero point 0.8. Same thing you can do for the second level quiz. Now, this much that I've understood, I read some pieces of information, I drew my inferences, I had some values about incorrect answering probabilities, I got correct answering from there. This is what it means to process information as you're reading. The reasons people are overwhelmed when they see a lot of text is that they try to process it all at once. They read the whole thing, then they get confused, then they read the whole thing one more time. Instead of that, read it part by part from the get go and keep making inferences, keep writing things mathematically. Now, my question is here, what am I doing? Probability that he will not have progressed to D3. Now, how will I not progress? There are multiple possibilities here. So instead of thinking about this, is it better for me to think the reverse? We have to try to understand that. So, first, look at all of the cases in which he does not progress. So, possibilities are that he failed level 1 two times, or he failed level 1 the first time but cleared level 2. So, this time he'll go, but cleared level 1 the second time. So, now in the third quiz, he will be level 2. Then another possibility is he cleared level 1 the first time, but level 2 he didn't. So third quiz is again level 2. So there are these three possibilities in which he's not getting to T3. But there's only one possibility in which he actually does get there, which is if he clears level 1 in the first go, clears level 2 in the first go, and that's how the third quiz will be D3. So very fewer attempts to deal with in the non-event method. That's why I'll use non-event here. When you find the probability of that, clearing D1 means answering everything correctly and then answering everything correctly for D2. Look at the and the multiplication. Now, how do I get all of it correct? It means each question correct with multiplication. That means I get the first one correct and the second one correct and the third one correct. So multiplication again. When I do that, we got this point 0.8 on the previous slide and similarly point 0.7 there. We multiply because the powers are identical. You multiply the bases. Now don't forget to subtract this from 1 because this is the non-event probability. When you do that, you get the correct answer. Janet says, I was a bit confused at first. but looking at the options helped me realize what I had to do. That's a good technique. A lot of times when we read options, it puts us in the right direction, that I don't really have to care about the values, I have to have it in exponential form. And if this is what I'm multiplying, it's about 10 different attempts because there are 10 questions. It does give you hints. Taiwo says, I got the answer, but I don't think I understood how it was arrived at. What about now? Did you now understand everything? Are we all clear now? Because we're going to go into the third question of this sprint right after this question. Everyone, if you have any questions, I'm going to be here for another 10 seconds. Yes? Great. Christian remembers C for clear. Okay, let's have the next poll, please. We're going to see the third and the last question of the first sprint. After that, as I said, there's another sprint where the level will be higher. The poll is here. This is your question. Good luck. the teaser session. Okay, so accuracy data is here for this one. It's 40% accuracy, which is not very high, but it's still not very bad. So you guys still could do it, some of you. Let's all try to understand what went wrong here. So we have these three people. They start to write a book, and they have their individual probabilities for completing their respective books. Starting is one thing, completing is another thing. And the data that's given, I have written here in this list. Now, after you complete a book, whenever a science fiction book is completed, it has a 20% chance of getting published. This is here. What is the probability that Beth or Carl, but not Abe, will get their book published? So there's so much that's happening in the question that I'm trying to do. Beth or Carl, but not Abe. We need to understand everything here. So, this huge event that I have, I can actually break it down into pieces. See how? First, think of this as one event where Beth or Carl, their books get published. And the second event is that Abe's book does not get published. You tell me, is there an and in between, or is there an or in between? In between these two events, let's see. If it's an and, I'll multiply. If it's an or, I'll add. This will test what you learned from the warm up section we all did together. And yes, because you want both things to happen. You want Beth or Carl, but not Abe. So those things have to happen together. Good. Sanket Sayan got this correct. So I'm multiplying. Now I think about B or C as a separate event and A as a separate event, not A really. Now B or C, if I call that event 1 and this as event 2, let's only focus on the first one. You know how OR works. We just did a formula. You'll add individual probabilities and subtract both from there. So now what are these values? Probability of Beth's book getting published. That is what this is. Now, when does a book get published? You complete it and then it gets published. So in this inbuilt are two more events that you completed and it gets published. So you're again multiplying them. So it's 1 by 5 because this is your completion for Beth. You see the 1 by 5, and then 20% is also another 1 by 5. Same way you do it for C. And now when you think about B and C, because you have individual probabilities 1 by 25 and 1 by 20, I'm simply multiplying them. And now when you calculate all of this, it's 11 over 125. So this is what the first part of the event is, where I'm only taking care of B or C. How many of you could do this correctly? Just write down me in the chat if you got this far, understanding B or C. There's more to this question, obviously, where I have to think about not A, but being able to break the question down this much is also huge. It shows that you understand things. Just write me in the chat if you could get till here. I understand there's a small lag between when I say and when you hear it. Okay, Sanket got it. Good. Sherlock says I multiplied P and C. What's P and what's C? Do you mean B and C? Oh, B and C. Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. But that's only Beth and Carl. It's not or, right? Tawheed didn't get it. But now you guys understand it. All those of you who did not, also tell me if now it makes sense. And now tell me what is it that you had missed. Because being able to identify what your gaps are, that's really, really important. Okay, so I simply broke my events into two parts, B or C as one event and not A as another. And B or C is something we learned in the warm up, and using that formula, we found event 1. Now, when I think about event 2, which is not A means not getting published. There are two cases. She doesn't even complete the book, or the book gets completed but it's not published. So there are two cases I have to consider. While if I think about the reverse, that the book is published, there's only one way. You complete it also, and then it got published also. So because it's fewer possibilities to consider in the non-event, we do that as always. So non-event is completing the book and getting published. You do it exactly like you did it for Beth and Carl, and this gives you 9 by 10. And then finally, you have event 1, event 2, There's an and, you multiply, and you have your answer. Okay. Taiwo says, I missed incorporating the 20% chance of completion. Do you mean completion for Beth, or did you mean 20% chance of publishing, of the book getting published? That is something more likely to be missed. Here, two things you had to take care of, and the beauty of the question was that within each event, there were sub events. Like getting a book published was an event, but within that, there was first of all completing the book and then getting it published. The published part you missed, right? Which is easy to miss if we're not completely involved in the question, or if there are conceptual gaps and we're not really sure how to use things. Okay, so this is a very nice question, and it teaches you a lot about how you should deal with multiple events. Now, all of this work that you've put in. We did concept related questions in stage one of your preparation. Then we started applying those concepts in medium level questions. It's a second stage you reached at. Then there is a third stage I've already talked about, where you go into the hardest of questions. When you're doing something like this, so many stages to navigate, so many moving parts that you have. I do this thing properly, then I should do this, then I should do that. All of this requires solid planning. You all have undertaken a huge project, acing the GMAT. And like any project that you want to be successful, it has to have a good plan. We have spent hundreds of hours in creating this study planner for you because we know how difficult it gets sometimes to manage life and the GMAT together. With this planner, I promise you will find yourself in a way comfortable situation. You'll know where you are, you'll know how much work you have to do, and where you have to put that work. Again, I'm going to demonstrate this to you. I'll show you how such a plan is created. So let me just share my screen. Give me a second. So meanwhile, tell me, how did you all find these questions till here? How comfortable do you find yourself in these sprint one questions compared to what was the case in the conceptual warm up questions? Do you see a transition? How are we feeling? Come on. Good ones. So is the confidence just as it was, or do you feel a little bit more shaky? How was this? Meanwhile, I'm ready to show you the study planner I was talking about. And by the way, this is something all of you have access to. Whether or not you're a student, you can all come here and create your own plan. All you have to do is go in the plan tab here and select Focus Edition Study Planner. Then you will click on Launch Planner, and once you do, it will bring you here. I'll start over and create a fresh plan with all of you. Now, look what you have to do. Simply click on Create Your Study Plan, and it gives you prerequisites that you must follow, which is that you must have your starting scores. Think about putting a destination on Google Maps and not telling it where you are, just hiding it somehow. How will it chart a path for you? It will not be able to. That's how important it is to have a good estimate of your starting abilities. Good estimate means a mock test, a test that you can rely on. So these are the ones that we accept: an actual GMAT score, or a mock test from MBA.com, an official mock, or a Sigma X mock from e-GMAT. Now, this mock test is question level adaptive, just like the actual test. And in the score report that you get, you will not just get verbal quant, you will also get subsectional abilities. How did I do on CR or RC or arithmetic, and so on. And no other mock gives you that, not even the official mock. So make sure you have this. Now click on this Create Your Study Plan. First step is to set your target. Where do you want to go? What is your final target score? Now, for example, I'm going to take a situation where suppose my target score is, say, 645. Now, when I click on set as target, it gives me this situation. It already tells me that the score you are aiming for is at the 89th percentile. That means you're not aiming for a very high score. In fact, I can actually make this slightly more challenging. Okay, let's continue. You'll understand the idea very nicely. Next, you put in your current GMAT score. So you want to go to a 645, but suppose right now you are at a 545. Now you select the source where you got this information from. I'll select Sigma X Mock, and this is the overall journey you want to go on. 47th percentile is where you are today. That means today you're better than 47% of the test takers, but your goal is to become better than 89% of the test takers. It's a huge journey that you are undertaking. Then you go into the sectional level, not the overall GMAT. Here you put in what your verbal score is, what your quant score is. Suppose my verbal score is 83 and my quant score is, say, 85. Then you see how it automatically created a range for my DI score, 61 to 65. Why? Because it's already thinking, how is it that you can get the starting score 545 that you said? If you have a 83 on verbal, 85 quant, then DI has to be in this range. That smart is the system. Suppose I got a 62. I'm going to select that for data insights, and now I will get my target sectional scores. At this stage, it's trying to analyze a lot of possibilities. If you read it here, it says there are 48 probable paths for you to go from your starting to your overall target, but this is giving you the most optimal path, where it says just go from your verbal 83 to 84, just try to go there. Quant also just do a small improvement, but DI is where you'll have to get to a 77. Remember, we started with 62. Now either you accept this, or you're free to pick a different split also. For example, I want to say no, I want to take my verbal to 88, and I want to take my quant to, say, 86, and then the rest of it I'm going to do from DI. This. Now, if I do this, just see this comment that I get. It's 141% more challenging. It's more than double. It's because this split is not good based on where I am starting, and I'm sure you don't want to do that. So right now I'm going to select recommended flow only, what the targets the system is recommending after so much back end work, and I will hit next. Now it's allocating percentile bands. It's saying, okay, where do I have to go in verbal, in quant, and in DI? So this is the overall journey. Just look at this. Barely anything you have to do in verbal, barely anything in quant. It's DI where most improvement is needed for this student. You can also see the time investment you'll have to put. Look how quant and verbal are like what, 7 hours and 15 hours, but DI is where you need 92 hours of work. That means you're very good with verbal quant, but DI is where you're lacking. Maybe because you don't know how to approach DI question type. It's a new question type. Generally, if you do verbal really well, if you do quant really well, DI will also happen. Now you go to your current subsectional scores. So till now you were at the verbal level. First you went from the entire test, then to verbal, and then now you're going within verbal. Here then you slide and select what your score is, and you don't have to think anything about this. This is something you will get in your Sigma X mock. You'll exactly get what scores you've got. Then it recommends ability to you. It says, okay, you are at a 57 in CR, you have to go to a 90 based on the overall target. RC, just go from 65 to 83. It gives you time estimates here as well. These weeks are based on a typical 20-hour per week study time. Now you see how much more fine tuned this is. On a previous stage also, it was giving me how much time I need for verbal, but at that stage it didn't know what CR RC were. Now it's getting even more sharp. Then you do the same thing for quant. You create your you enter your abilities for quant based on whatever your mock test tells you. So say this is what I have in quant. Now I get my quant milestones the same way, again a lot more targeted. See, I don't need much work in algebra, I only need work in arithmetic. A lot more fine tuned again compared to where I started. Lastly, DI, which is my problem area. I haven't done any graph questions, I haven't done any TPA, CR is weak for me, maybe MSR is a question type I just don't understand, which is what makes all of my entire DI score so low. Now, when you see your recommended abilities, just see how it's telling you step by step. DS, you have to go from 25 to 50. GITA, you need to do this, and so on. You accept this, and now you see it gave you everything. This is your overall journey, 545 to 645. This is how it looks at a high level, but then you go deeper into each of these. You know what you have to do in verbal, CRRC, what in quant, and what in DI, including total effort needed. Now, before you get into time commitments, you select what's the sequence in which you want to study. The most optimal sequence is do verbal first, do quant, and then DI. Now, you can pick a different study sequence, say you want to do quant first. Now, it does say it's suboptimal based on all of its analysis, but if you select I want to do DI first and then the others, it's absolutely not optimal, because DI requires your skill in both of the other things. Right now, I'll again choose recommended. Now, select your time commitment. So, weekdays, how many hours I'm putting, weekend, and if you don't want to be so, direct, you can go to an individual day commitment. Say Mondays, I'm very busy at work, so zero. I'll make up for these 2 hours on Wednesday and Friday. So, my overall 20 hours is set. Weekend, maybe Saturday, I can spend 2 extra hours. This I set and I continue. Now I pick a date. When am I going to start preparing? Okay, tomorrow I'm busy, let me start from 1st March. Then when I do all of this, all of my calculation comes together, says I need about 9 weeks, and I will be ready on the 3rd of May. This is the recommended test week. You can pick an earlier date and all of those things also, but then it'll tell you you'll have to increase the number of hours. You accept this. This is now your overall journey. You can take a printout of this, paste it wherever you study, and you'll know exactly what you're doing till the end of prep level. You can now also obviously click on this and understand your overall journey, then go to verbal also. For example, this time it's going to be deeper, that you do your CR course. You do the course first, you then do cementing step by step, it's telling you. Then you do cementing in RC, then you do the course as much as needed. Then you do test readiness, then you do the same thing for quant, and finally for DI. So much of information here that you get, you will never have another question about how to plan your journey. Let me see if okay guys, how do you feel about all of this plan? Do you feel that you had this lack of planning or lack of clarity? How much time do I need? What should I study? Does this answer some of your questions? There is a conversion table for this, Sushruth. You don't have to worry too much. What do we see here in terms of planning? Do you see the value that this can add? Yes? Great. What else? Others? While I bring the session presentation back, let me know what you feel. Okay, science says yes. I find it interesting. Thank you. Great. Do try this, all of you. Do this for yourself. Tomorrow, first time when you sit and study, create this plan for yourself. You will have something motivating you at all times, that this is where I am today, this is where I have to go, this is the stage I'm at. You will never find yourself lost again. Okay, great, informative, useful. Thank you. I'm glad you can see the impact this has. Just try this for yourself and you'll know what I'm talking about. Now that we've understood the planning part and you know how planning is so important for a project such as this, we'll go back to our preparation mode. This, though, before I go there, see, I told you about so many different things. Pace architecture, which ensures that you don't do things more than you need to do. The PSP, the personalized planner, makes sure that you know exactly what to do, when to do, what's the sequence to follow, where you are today. All of these different things that are there, it's a specialized product for every need that you have in your entire preparation journey. Because of this specialization, because we've created a product for every single need, it's a no brainer when I tell you that 3 out of every 5 successes, 700 plus scores that are reported on GMAT Club, verified scores, these are EG matters. Look at this on a pie chart where you see 60% of all success, the lion's share is here, and the remaining 40% is all of the other partners combined. So, all of this becomes possible because of the detail that has gone into every little part. Every concept is taught, every bit of application is taught, and how to plan, how to study, what not to study. All of these things ensure that you only spend time where you need to and you get to the success that you want. Now, I will continue with the second sprint. This was a good break we had. Let's have the first question poll here, please. Shankar, feel free to write to our support ID. They will look at your case specifically and tell you what you should be doing. So the poll is here. This is your question, everyone. Good luck. All right. Accuracy is here. 40% accuracy for this one. Let's see why it's so low for this. So we have a business school. Four out of every five students and two out of every three international students are males. So we're looking at it from two sides, total students and international students. Then it's saying students selected randomly, probability of international is zero point 0.3. So from here, I can get that if the total number of students is 100, probability of international is zero point 0.3, then I can get the actual number of international students. That means I can also get the other students, the non international students. Then we see the entire flow. We have total students, we divide them into international and others. And then, because we're talking about male, female in the question, that's why we then further divide each category into male and female. This way, we have a tree diagram. We have represented the different things that we are looking at up front. Without even putting any values, we at least know all of the different types of classification that we are talking about here. Right? Yes, you can also represent this in the form of a table, a matrix. Now, right now, 100 students are your total. International, we just found that was your 30, others is 70. Now you use the information in the first sentence. We knew two out of every three international are male. So two-third of international, 30, that's male. That means I can already subtract this 20 from 30 to get female international. Same way then, four out of every five in total, these are male students. Don't make the mistake of using them here in the others category. So 80 total males. So you subtract the 20 males that are international students to get 60 males that are in this others side. And accordingly, you get females. Now, we have used all of the information that was given to us in so much of this text, and we have it in a much more visual format. Now, if somebody suddenly asks me anything about this question, I will be able to comfortably answer. This is what you should do first. You try to visualize information. Whenever it's classifications like these, put them in a table or a tree diagram like you see here, so that information is a lot easy to use to understand. Now, I haven't yet read what the question wanted. What's the probability that at least one of them, one of whom two students are selected at random, at least one of them is female international? There are so many possibilities. One female international, two female international, or both of these are true. Here I have a situation. I could have one female international student and one other student, or I could have two female international students. Now in this case, the reverse side is fewer attempts, fewer cases to consider. That I think of one female international student, cases when no female international student is selected is the non event for me. Always, when I'm thinking about at least one, which is one or two, in this case, because I was selecting two students, I had one or two. So the reverse of that is no female international students. So this is easier to find the probability of, and I'll subtract that from one. So see how. First, non event, selecting no female international students. So you have to understand how many students are not female international. For this, you look at how many are female international. So it's 10 students. Now, if I had a total of 100, then excluding these 10, I have 90 other students. They could be female, they could be international, but they should not be female international students. Both things should not happen. So 90 is what I have here. Now, probability of selecting two from these 90 is 90C2, because you're just selecting, it's not about order, divided by total ways of selecting two students, which is 100C2. This probability now you subtract from 1 because you wanted the non event, and you get choice C. That is it. Conditional probability, Shankar, is when I have something as a given. So, given that the first student is a female international, what is the probability that the second one is also? Don't ask me to solve this here on the fly. I'm trying to explain what this is. Given that one thing has occurred, what's the probability of another. That's a different story. But Samagra, you're right in how you said we can represent this using a matrix as well. So here I used a tree diagram to solve this. Now, all of us, since we've solved this question, no new concepts is had, simply non event method and just understanding the language. This one also showed how important it is to slowly assimilate information. Read it phrase by phrase, make sense of it, change English to math so that this stuff never overwhelms you. Okay? Let's have the poll for the second sprint question. The second question of sprint 2. This is a data sufficiency question, the first of this session, the only one. Just use everything that you know about data sufficiency, and if you don't, we'll know that with the accuracy. I'll talk more about this question type right after. So here's your question. Good luck. That's pretty good. 75% of you could get this question correct. That's really nice. Let's discuss this then. We're going to go faster. So, N shirts, 60% white. So, 40% are not white. Then you're talking about the non white shirts with a tailoring defect. And then you have something about white shirts and tailoring defect. So, again, we see the same classification structure like it was in the previous question: white, non white, defect, no defect. So here then, first I'm seeing total shirts into just white, non-white. Then within each of those colors, I have the further categories: defect, no defect. Let's start filling this. So box of N shirts, that's your total. 60% white. So this is zero point 0.6 N. At this stage, without reading further, I'll already fill non-white also. Now, three out of every four non-white, they have a defect. So how many have a defect? So just focus on the right side first, this part. So 3/4 of zero point 0.4 n. This is zero point 0.3 n, and so I can get no defect also here. Now, since the question was white shirts with a defect or no defect, that's why we took this as X, because this quantity is unknown even after reading all of the information. Now, finally, when I think about white shirts without a defect, it's this section that we just highlighted. So it's zero point 0.6 n minus x. That's the number of white shirts without a tailoring defect. But percentage of what? Is it percentage of the total or percentage of white? Percentage of white shirts. So you have to be very careful that in the denominator you put the total white shirts, not n, which is the total number. Now, to be able to find this, you can first see that you can, cancel out the first part of the numerator if you split these. This then makes it clear that all we need to be able to find this is x over n. So somehow either I find x and n both or this ratio. That is what I want to go to my statements for. First statement is saying one shirt randomly selected, probability that it will have a defect is zero point 0.5. So now I'm not talking about white or non-white. I'm talking about total defective out of total shirts. Now, how many defective shirts do I have? Which ones will I take? You answer. Should I take A or B or C or D? Which one is it that I want when I'm talking about the percentage of when I'm talking about the probability of a random shirt having a tailoring defect? Just put the right choice here. I'm going to take the first correct answer. Come on. What is this zero point 0.5 that I'm looking at? Is everyone confused or what? The accuracy was pretty good. I hope they were not guesses. Well, I'm going to tell you here. Okay, good. So we say A here. That is absolutely correct. A, Samagra is lost. Let's see. So total defective shirts I'm talking about. I'm taking a shirt at random from all the shirts. That's your total shirts. From them, I'm seeing the probability of a defective shirt. I don't care it's white or it's not white. I care about the defect part. So when you see it's white defect, plus non-white defect upon total shirts. So this is the shaded region that I'm interested in. Now, if I actually formulate the probability, I write down that this is x plus zero point 0.3 n over n, then it's given to me to be zero point 0.5. Solving this, I can get the ratio, the fraction that I was looking for. And so this statement is sufficient. And which helps me reject already B, C, E. Now I look at the second statement. Yes, we still can use it. You can represent information in any way, it just has to be visual. Probability that a shirt with tailoring defect will be white. This time, what is the denominator? What is the numerator? Out of what type of shirts am I seeing what type? Very important to understand that. I am talking about a shirt with tailoring defect. So that's my entire set, that's my denominator, from which I'm taking the ones that are white, which means you are talking about white tailoring defect out of total tailoring defect, right? And this is 2 by 5. And now when I try to find those values here, white defective, that's your x, total defective, that's your x plus 0.3n, solve it, and you still get the fraction that you wanted, which makes both the statements sufficient and D the correct answer. Okay. Thank you, Christian. I can use the matrix. As I said, we're simply trying to represent information visually. Anything that makes sense, you can use that. Okay, so now this is the only data sufficiency question we solved here. Data sufficiency, as you now know, is a part of the data insights section. It's no longer part of quant as it used to be. So now see how when you learn quant, you go from basics to mastery in every topic, but the questions that you're doing, they are problem solving questions. You have MCQs, you're selecting an answer. When you come to DI, things change. Look at data sufficiency as a question type. You don't want an answer. You are thinking about what can give you the answer. Think about two-part analysis questions where you're doing two parts and you're marking answers for both of those. Those are things that you don't really learn in the quant side of things. And this therefore deserves its own place, a proper placeholder where you learn just this. I'm going to show this to you in the course once. I'll show you how this is taught. One second. Samagra says, when in doubt, I find retracing my steps towards matrix. Any way that you want to represent, it's always a good idea. As long as you know what you're doing, you're good. Okay, one second. Okay. All of you should be able to see my screen. And on this, I'm going to show you the course. So come here in Data Insights and enter data sufficiency. So see how data sufficiency is taught right from the foundations. What is this question type? How do you answer this? What proficiency you have to build? Then it goes on to talk about the concepts that can be tested in DI. Now, data sufficiency, when it was part of quant, it had pure questions like number properties or intense algebra. But now that it's a part of DI, it's real world context. Probability is very much a real world context, like you had shirts and defects here, like you were talking about. Where do you see that in the course? Look at this quantitative reasoning, which is your second module. You can see probability puzzles. This is the first place where you learn applications, specific questions to probability, and then you are tested on the same. Why the need for this? Because of the huge change that DI brings compared to what you already know from quant. So you learn things in a progressive manner. You're kind of starting from the scratch, from scratch when it comes to DI. Again, building basic abilities till you get ready for GMAT style questions. So this was just to show you how the one topic that we saw here today, probability, is also so clearly covered in the course. This way, everything that you can expect to have on the test as part of DI, you will see that in the course as well. Let me go back to the presentation screen. One second. Okay. Now, everyone, let me know if you have any questions from today. While I conclude, all of you must have 200% clarity in your concepts. It's something that is non-negotiable. It's like learning the ABC before you try to spell cat, bat, mat, or xylophone straight off. Xylophone is your GMAT skills level, or maybe even harder, but cat, bat is where you learn process skills, where you learn medium level application. None of that can happen if concepts are not there. Okay, always when you're solving questions, go step by step. Trust yourself, read information slowly, actively read information. Don't just see, don't just read, comprehend. Read to understand. Also trust yourself, trust the test maker. You will never see something that is out of the world, something that is not supposed to be there. The test maker will never throw something at you that is out of scope, that is something that you just cannot solve. If you find yourself into too much work, then you're thinking about it incorrectly. Believe in yourself at all times. If you've learned properly, if you've gone step by step, if you've prepared yourself from concepts to process skills to GMAT skills, there is no reason why you can't be successful. Start with a solid plan, as I talked, and you will find yourself on that path to success. Let me know how you people found this session. We're just going to put a small poll here for a feedback form. Just spend a minute there and tell me how you found the session and any other comments if you have. Let's see that. I go back to PNC when in trouble with probability. That's actually a good strategy because a lot of probability questions, they are around the PNC concept only, because the number of favorable outcomes or total, they come from PNC, then they go in numerator denominator. So that's good, Shashikant. Thank you, Name. The form is here for your feedback. What else? Meanwhile, you can tell me here. Anything else you would like to see next time when we come here? Also, do like the session if you enjoyed this today. This will help the session reach more and more people who need help in the topic. Thank you, Sayan. Thank you for being here. I'll end the session in another minute. Just keeping the poll here for you. Just open that. Is it possible to improve from 85 to 90? It is possible. It just depends on what time you're putting, and 90 is, by the way, the top score. Instead of thinking about that, use the PSP, put your target scores, and see what time estimate it tells you. Wonderful session, Science says. Thank you. Mixture and allegations is a request. Christian says or is trickier than and. It's, see, my technique of doing these questions is to always read it out. Talk to myself about the question. Am I saying and? Am I saying or? That almost always helps me. I mean, I've never felt that I just don't know what to do. Loved the session. Keep more coming. Thank you, Samagra. Thank you, Lone Monk. Thank you, Shankar. Dishonest merchant percentage. That's a topic you want? That's a question. It looks like more like a specific question you're talking about. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for being here. I will see you again in another session. Till then, start with your plan, start learning the right way, take the free trial, and see if it works for you. All right? Good night, good day. Bye bye.